into that group, MOE, NEC, KISE, KIPRA, we will remain in this room. Okay? We'll just occupy the tables in front. If you're a KICS researcher, there's a room upstairs. There's a room upstairs for those who went, who are in the teacher policy, teacher management, and what? That group, group 1. You already know where it is. There's a room upstairs. You go upstairs, it's the first room on your left. So if you're a KICS researcher, please, you find your way there. And in all these groups, please make sure that you have someone who is your secretary, who will be taking notes. And then I'll tell you what you'll do, don't worry. Then we have the TSC, RDEs, and principles. TSCs, RDEs, and principles. I don't know how many we are, but we can use behind there. We have space. This room is big enough to have 2 groups, so we'll have the MOE team up front and the TSC, RDEs, and principles at the back. Okay. Then we will have partners. If you do not fall in any of these categories that I've already mentioned, you are not MOE, you are not NEC, KISE, KIPRA, you're not a KICS researcher, you're not with the TSC, but you're our valuable partner. And I'm running out of rooms. So I think we can use that side of the room. Okay? I don't think we are many. Just next to that door, there are 2 tables there. We can utilize that side of the room. There's something that has been projected that you will be given. So what we are going to look at, we are going to look at immediate, it's a roadmap that we are developing. We're going to develop evidence uptake roadmap. So we want you to tell us of 0 to 6 months. Already these were discussed in our various groups. So we just want you to tease them out so that it is something very clear. So you'll tell us 0 to 6 months, what is the priority action and the lead institution. And also we have the supporting partners who I've mentioned. So this is an example. For example, we're going to establish a small technical follow-up task team for priority evidence areas. That is an example. So you'll just use the template that you will be given to give us what your priority areas are, what your priority actions are, sorry. And then, of course, we're also going to look at the KICS evidence that was presented here. We've heard from different partners. Of course, we also heard from the civil society organizations. So whatever evidence you have taken, we'd like you to map that against the ongoing reforms. I think Dr. Joab started by saying we are not going to develop new policies. These things already exist. So it's a matter of how do we strengthen them? How do we ensure this implementation? So you'll tell us, you map the evidence against ongoing reforms, policies, and sector priorities, and then you give us a brief. Where do you see this happening? Is there room for uptake, what form, things like that. And then we look at, also we look at the midterm, that is 1 year to 2 years. You're going to tell us what are you seeing within, what will be the priority action 1 to 2 years. And then long term, we're looking at 2 to 3 years. So I'm not going to read everything. There are examples in that handout that you will receive in each of your groups. And then that activity will take us exactly 1 hour. So please make sure you have rapporteurs. You have a session chair, and you also have rapporteurs who will be reporting back to us, or a secretary who will be reporting back to us. Any question? We all know where we are going. Hmm? You want us to do it in 40 minutes? We will try. Okay. Please let us go to our various groups. If you are MOE and the partners supporting, please remain here. If you are a KICS researcher, please proceed upstairs. Okay, can we have all the KICS researchers just stand because you are going away? Let's start with you. I'm a teacher, so sometimes you have to, to force things. So if you know you came here as a KICS researcher, please. Could we stand? Patrick, Dr. Patrick, please stand with your team. You know all of them. You know all of them, please. Okay, let's proceed to our room. It's the first room. When you go up the stairs, it's the first room on your left. It's called? Longonot. Oh, she's pronouncing it like Ugandan. So it's Longonot. Please, let's proceed. Okay, so if you are in the other team, that is TSC, RDEs, and principals. I don't know where that is where Anne is. And where do you fall? You are MOE, so please come in front. Here, you people should be standing. We want them here. Unless you're supposed to be here. TSC, we are sitting at the back. Yeah, those two tables behind there. Dr. Tamburi. Doc. Please let us move. We have very limited time. Apana? Yes. MOE, NEC, KISE, KIPRA. TSC, RDEs, and principals. That is how I've been guided. You're just taking, what have you taken? What the roadmap? What can you support? Yes.
No, RDs.
Okay, TSC, MOE, TSC, KICD.
Si wako pamoja MOE, TSC.
TSC,
Na wengine
KICD.
wanasema wapi? MOE, no. Wapi the other one? You said MOE, RD. Mention another one. TSC, RDs, principals. Now wapi MOE now?
Mary, can you guide properly? Because now I think I see. So can we just have everybody here then? Not necessarily some, because as I had said, two groups. So we have MOE, NEC, TSE, KIPRA, TSE, all governments. Yes. Okay. Hello, I'm guided. Hello. You'll receive the word version. So please, we are going to just have one meeting for the government. Whether you are MOE, TSE, KIPRA, please just come. Let us be closer together. Partners, you're supposed to be there. GP, you can join any ministry. Yes. Partners on this side, please just come. All of us are we're just going to have one. Mm. Oh, it's yeah. Oh, the one who has written it wrong. It's double P. It's okay. Can we just this table of yours? We don't want anybody here. We don't even know who's the chair. Yeah, all of you are here. Mm. Yeah, all of you are just. How do we want us to arrange this? Can we do away with the tables that all of us are facing in front? I think that will work better so that it's just one discussion. We're not going to have discussions per table. It's just going to be one discussion. Look, it's fine. We are all sitting it's just one group. Mm. Yes. No, I'm saying we just face in front. We're not going to do tables. Tables will not work. Yeah. No, tables will not work. Why is he bringing a table? Excuse me. Excuse me. Please, let's just move. The tables will not work. We just want to have a discussion. If we could just move so that we face the front, please. Yeah. That's why I'm doing this. I'm removing the tables.
because every partner is pulling towards different directions. And depending on who's able to bring the little passion for 3 days, that's the one that comes. So the last meeting we had, then we said, what is the structure that we can use to engage with the government? And then we said EDPCG is the structure that is there to engage with the government, which is probably not the best, but as we move forward, there is a roadmap on rejuvenating the EDPCG through structure. Set for 10th of June. So that's really something that we left. There's a meeting that has been called on 10th of June. I think the communication will come and UNICEF is coming to the chair. So I think then if we can make the EDPCG work, and then within it like the subgroups, then now each of our partners, we can find our sub-team within EDPCG. I think it will become very easy to engage government with one another.
And that's why sorry to my other question, do we know the existing subgroups in the country? Then we can align, do we know the existing subgroups? Then we can align ourselves. We really are not here to create parallels. We don't have the resources, we don't have the time, even the power. We can promise each other things here, and then after that we all go quiet. It's impossible.
I like your point. System structures and systems. This co-chairing. So it's actually the ministry and the steering. I think it's better when they're playing. So after you plan, and it's partners supporting what they really believe they own, then it becomes easy to release. And I see this with the DPCG, as you say, and existing, but in terms of functionality is another thing. So at the moment, actually, the focus for that meeting for 10 is actually to look at how we can TOR, it's the TOR menu, which will be shared before 10 with everyone to be able to give comment. We are seeking clearance with so, yes. Yes.
This space also using as some of the researchers.
Exactly. There is a working group on research and evidence. There is a working group on that, research, evidence, and data. So
That's the one.
It was just 25, from the leg, because we have five.
1 second. Please let us take our seats. We want to continue. We are going to make it short. I know most of us are already thinking of the way to, most of us are already thinking of how fast they can get to Nairobi. And I will start penalizing some people. There's a group that need to be penalized. You have not finished? How many minutes? Is 1 minute okay? Or 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Okay, we are giving you 2 minutes. Okay, so welcome back to the session. I know the discussions were really interesting and we have a lot to discuss, a lot to recommend. Our esteemed partners, we humbly request that we be in one meeting. Thank you. So for this next session, hello, there's a lot of noise in the room. Please let us be in one meeting. Thank you. So for the next session, I'd want to call upon Mr. Duale Hassan Abdullahi. Mr. Duale Hassan Abdullahi is the Head Directorate of Junior School, Ministry of Education. Please let us welcome him. Hello, No, that is not a proper welcome. If it were me, I would not speak. Please let us welcome him properly. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. I have been given a simple task to coordinate the presentation. May I request the first presentation of the discussions from MOE team. And we ask that we will utilize 5 minutes each. Then we go to the last session, which is the closing session. I know the time is almost running, especially now it's lunchtime. Allow me now to call the person who was tasked to present for Group 1, the MOE, NEC, and the rest, the Teacher Service Committee, and the rest of the Ministry of Education team. Kindly, who is presenting for MOE? Thank you, Dr. Mjuba.
Thank you. I will just indicate we had quite a number of, you may call them policy actions that we were trying to harmonize. Generally, 35 policy actions that have been discussed. Maybe I'll just highlight one of each. In the intermediate, we thought of basically finalizing and launching of the financial, not financial, foundational learning guidelines. And then also having a technical working group for financial learning assessments. We would also like to strengthen data quality governance and strengthen the capacity of middle tier in digital infrastructure. Look at the capacity of field officers and partners on resilient policies and legal frameworks, and look at ways in which we can finalize collaboration and coordination framework for system resilience, monitor counties that are lagging behind, generally on gender indicators with a view of giving them support to proceed on and finalize and launch of the education sector gender policy. And lastly was to convene an education forum between the national and county governments. And we thought this could be done in the short term. The medium term, we were looking at utilizing universities and diploma teacher colleges for purposes of resourcing them so that they can enhance STEM teaching. Review of the nationalization policy under the Teacher Service Commission. Fully operationalize chemists across all sectors. And look at setup of remote, scale up the remote learning program, as well as strengthen early identification and assessment. We would also want to see guidelines developed for pre-primary special needs learners, because this group of learners seem not to be owned by anybody. The national government disowns them, county governments also seem to disown them. So we want them to have an honor. We also want to expand equity and inclusion and early warning systems such that we are able to enhance the learning outcomes and look at ways of having sustainable financing, coordination and innovation systems for data and governance. And then strengthen the intergovernmental coordination of foundational learning as we develop standards and guidelines on existing policies and legal frameworks on system resilience. In the long term, we look at recruiting additional teachers, implementing the revised policy on nationalization, ring-fencing resources for for foundational learning. Sorry, I think I'm used to financial too much. Create an institution where, institutionalized evidence-based decision-making and data culture use and teacher coaching on transformative pedagogy, especially for gender inclusion. Develop a strategy for system resilience so that it can be included in the next strategic plan, NESP, for the coming years 2028 to 2032, and a framework for socio-economic learning. I think that is what we mentioned, and most of each one of these has outputs related to the policy actions. At the same time, the lead institutions are generally the Ministry of Education, NEC, Teacher Service Commission, and development partners and non-state actors. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mjumba. May I now request the second team, KICS researchers, to come and do the presentation. Kindly, may I request that you stick to the time allocated, 5 minutes, so that we save on the remaining part of the time.
All right, thank you very much. We shall try to stick to the allocated 5 minutes. So as KICS grantees, our immediate priority actions for the next 3 months are ideally strengthening coordination, and this is twofold. We intend to strengthen coordination amongst ourselves as KICS grantees and also strengthen our coordination with the Ministry of Education, who is our key partner in implementation. Lead institution for us, of course, is our AG focal person, and this is because our AG focal person is in the Ministry of Education, so that's already an inroad for us. Supporting partners are all KICS implementing or KICS grantees. Expected output, of course, we expect to see improved project coordination and cross-learning. We realized from the presentations that we have a lot of cross-cutting areas, similar areas, and we can already learn and borrow from each other to, of course, increase impact and improve project cross-learning. And then, of course, aside from that, we also expect to co-write or co-produce briefs, project outcomes that can be shared by or can be shared with other stakeholders and not just us as KICS grantees. In the next 6 months, we hope to have a KICS grantees learning forum. We realized that we did not have enough time to interrogate or to look at what each of us have done, look at our data, ask as many questions as we'd like. We've been asking each other questions on the side. So we realized we require a bit more time to really share and present what we're doing, the impact that we're seeing, the data that we are all, releasing, be it quantitative or qualitative. So that's an expected priority action in the next 6 months. ZANA Africa is our identified lead institution for this, and then all KICS grantees will support. The expected output is a KICS grantees fact sheet. I know we've had this conversation where we are producing 500, 1,000 page documents that end up just being, beauty pieces on our shelves. So we are hoping to have a 1-2 pager fact sheet on all KICS grantees projects that really speaks or highlights the outcomes and the achievements of each KICS grantees project. And this can be used for both resource mobilization and also just for information purposes in terms of just sharing what we're doing and what we're achieving as KICS grantees. In the next 0 to 6 months, we are also hoping to draw or to come up with a KICS evidence map against national reforms. This is to answer the so what question. With all the work that we're doing, how are we contributing to the national conversation in Kenya in terms of education, in terms of gender, sustainable development? So we are hoping to come up with a KICS evidence map against national reforms. Our AGI project will take lead on this, and all KICS grantees will support. And of course, the expected output is a policy papers or policy briefs in terms of what we have contributed and how this has contributed to the national discourse and national policy landscape. In the next 1 to 2 years, of course, we hope to continue contributing to national policy discussions. We've had different KICS grantees sitting in different spaces. We have grantees sitting in the National Quality Assurance Technical Working Group. We have grantees sitting in the Foundational Learning Working Group. We have KICS grantees supporting, different stakeholders and different directorates within the ministry. But we want to see this coming out strongly in terms of policy pronouncements and contributions. And one of the immediate expected output is integrated curricula. For example, we have the ongoing discussions around the special needs language of instruction policy review process. So we are hoping to see the contribution of our KICS grantees in the review and update of that policy and how that feeds into the integration of our curricula to respond to current needs in terms of special needs education integration. And then in the long term, in 2 to 3 years, we struggled a bit as grantees. As you can imagine, projects are time-bound, and most of our projects are either at the tail end, almost in the midline of project implementation. And it was difficult to really concretely speak to an action or an immediate action that we'd like to see, but we all agreed that we would like to be part of the national policy alignment in terms of gender education and well-being. And of course, our Kenya GPE focal point would lead us on this because that's our first point of interaction or engagement with the ministry. And the expected output, which we all are working towards, is improved education outcomes and sustainability of interventions. Thank you.
Let's appreciate the team. Thank you very much. Kindly on your tables, we have an evaluation document, especially it's on a QR code. Scan and send your evaluation remarks. Finally, may I now invite the partners, the representative, the person who was tasked to do the presentation. Please, 5 minutes, then we go to the final session.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So in the partners group, which comprised of colleagues from GPE, Rally Africa, IPA, UNESCO, UNICEF, IDRC, and UNESCO ICBA. What we have indicated as priority the first 6 months or 0 to 6 months, we've mentioned strengthening sector coordination, and this will include mapping of all the partners and the data and evidence they have on education. And there's been a whole discussion around the Education Development Partners Coordination Group. I think all the aspects that we have discussed will feed into how this coordination group will be operating through the 9 sub-working groups that under it, with 6 that are actually confirmed as per the information shared by UNICEF, who are the co-chairs with the Ministry of Education for this coordination group. Who will be the supporting partners? Of course, the team that was part of this. What we look forward as expected outputs include streamlined access to data and evidence, joint co-creation of data and also evidence generation, a statistical booklet available online with open access for anyone who would want data on what aspects of education and what is happening in various sectors of education. Then we also have an aspect around inviting the higher education and TVET teams to participate in the coordination group. The next bit is creating priorities to present research in the subgroups of the coordination group and also in conferences. And leading institutions would be the Ministry of Education and also the partners, and we've talked about upcoming conferences, the East Africa Community Conference, which is being convened by RELI, the Ministry of Education, Directorate of Policy, Partnerships and EAC Affairs, as well as the East Africa Community. We also have the Knowledge Innovation Exchange Symposium in October of this year. We also have the Devolution Conference. We also have Madaraka Day celebrations, which will be in Wajir County, and this time the topic for the Madaraka Day celebrations on education. So it's also a platform to ensure we are sharing what is happening. The conveners, of course, the ministry and also the partners. And what will this look like in terms of outputs, streamlined structure on how partners and the Ministry of Education and the public sector work together. Also, since we also have an aspect of financing of education and what is allocated to what sector, the output is seeing a structured engagement on budget allocations in various sectors of education. Then we also have teams that would be supporting in leading this, the Education Parliamentary Committee and also the Senate Education Committees. Then we have the aspect of involving the Council of Governors and the county education boards to ensure that early childhood education and basic education are given the kind of priority they need to. The lead institutions, the county governments, and also the County Directorate of Education, and supporting partners, the GP team, UNICEF, RELI, IDRC, UNESCO, UNICEF, ICBA, and others who are not in the room, but working in the private or civil society sector. In terms of outputs, targeted resource distribution, and also very clear and deliberate kind of engagement strategies. Then we also have the aspect of joint education sector review. And as we sat there, we also told ourselves as private or civil society partners, we also need to get our aspects of coordination in order so that when we share with the government what we want taken down to our beneficiaries in terms of the interventions, there's clear understanding on what will be happening. And in general, we have said all the aspects of the work we will be doing between now and even the next three years would be utilizing the subgroups in the education development partners subgroups to share all the information that is targeted to whatever sector. And if you allow me just a minute to share the subgroups so that you will see what we are looking forward to doing. We have the Refugee Education Working Group. We have the Education in Emergencies Working Group. We have the Foundational Learning subgroup. We also have the EdTech subgroup. Then we also have the TVET subgroup. And we have the Research and University Education sub-working group. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's appreciate the whole team in a big way. Thanks. May I now request the following people to come forward for the closing ceremony. Dr. James Njogu, CEO NATCOM, kindly. The chairs in front on the dais. May I request Joy Nafungo from IDRC? Karen, GPE. And finally, Dr. Ndegwa from the ministry. Please, we have. We will begin with the CEO, NATCOM, to give a brief remark, and then the closing ceremony will be done. The closing remark will be done by Mr. Ndegwa. So I think I'll bring the mic to where you are. You can just give your closing remarks and the final takeaway. I'll begin with Dr. Ndegwa. The rest may sit, please. Sorry, Dr. Njogu. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duale. And Duale is my boss because he's in my board representing the PS Education. And therefore, I'll address him as Sir. Thank you, sir. I want to make some few remarks. Having fully participated, although at one point I left, and having observed what we have done. So distinguished participants, esteemed partners, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close of this successful GEP Kicks workshop, let me first express my sincere appreciation to each one of you. Your active engagement, truly very active, insightful contributions, and unwavering commitment that we have seen throughout the whole process. Over the course of this workshop, we have not only shared knowledge and experience, but also strengthened our collective resolve to advance gender equality, issues of special needs, and in and through education. The richness of our discussions reflects the diversity of perspectives presented here. The policymakers from the ministry, the practitioners, certainly all of us, and our partners, and indeed we are all partners, are each bringing very valuable input to the discussions within all the sessions that has been so informative, triggering thoughts and reflections, some of which we have been discussing as groups and made some presentation. So this workshop has truly reaffirmed that achieving what we have talked about, quite a number of points, in education is not the responsibility of a single institution or sector. It requires coordinated action, sustained commitment, and evidence-based solution. And who is offering this? This platform, KICS, continues to provide us with a unique and powerful space to learn from one another and to innovate and to translate knowledge into impactful policy. The group discussions, certainly, what we have discussed is actually what we want done, which means translating this knowledge into a policy and practice. So as we live here, I want to encourage all of us to carry forward the momentum. Indeed, we have seen the momentum. It's very high. And I am sure some of us will miss this discourse, so we should be meeting even more often to monitor and evaluate the impacts that we want to achieve. So the momentum, according to me, we have built on three things, and I want to highlight them here. Number one, to apply the knowledge and tools that we have gained. Two, to strengthen collaboration across our institutions and countries. You will realize that even within, when we talked about the ministry that was seated here, we have different agencies, and even those ministry agencies, collaboration is key. So when I say collaboration here, I'm not saying collaborations with partners or collaboration with the civil society that are implementing quite a number and making us move as a ministry. I'm also talking about interagencies. NATCOM, where I come from, how do we collaborate with TSA, for instance? And I don't want to take much time. The last point, 3, to remain steadfast in our shared vision of inclusive, equitable, and quality education. That is written everywhere on all walls in the ministry and in most of our agencies. And the UNESCO is very key in shouting this: inclusive, equitable, and quality education. So, colleagues, let us also recognize that the true success of this workshop will be measured not but by what we have discussed here, but by what we'll implement beyond this space that we have shared together. On behalf of myself and many who will agree with me, I wish to extend our deepest gratitude to our partners, the moderators, the facilitators, the participant. The list is too long for me to read. And if I will read, it will look like I'm saying a poem. I'm not saying a poem. So, you have all made this workshop very resounding and very successful. I wish all of you and all of us safe travel and continued success in what we implement. And as I conclude, my boss, as I conclude, let me quote, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I'll request this team, excuse me, because I see it is very uncomfortable to do a presentation, and you need it somewhere for, maybe I'll just put it around there, so it's easier for the team. That will be easy for the team in terms of a comfortable place to put your laptops, instead of asking you to come down from the dais. May I now invite Joy for the presentations and the last remarks for the team.
Thank you, Chair. I am very happy. Let me just first say that. I'm very, very happy. This started like a very casual conversation with colleagues from Africa 19 Hub. Victoria is here. We were thinking, how can we bring Kenyan policymakers together in the same room with KICS researchers? You know, so that's how the conversation started. In case some of you are wondering, how did we come to do this? So that's where we started, and then Victoria, who of course works for UNESCO ICBA, suggested or proposed NATCOM. You know, because she speaks very highly of NATCOM. She said, you know, NATCOM is our esteemed partner in country, and whenever we go to any country, we really almost cannot do anything or engage the ministry without going through the NATCOM. And that's when Mary and Tony, I have not seen Tony today, but you know, that's when they come on board. Yes, and I have very high respect and regard for both Mary and Tony because of the number of meetings, you know, the meetings, the requests, the emails, the back and forth. It has not been easy, but here we are. And then come Sunday, what happens on Sunday? Monday, when we are all ready, our bags are packed, we are ready to travel, and then whatever happened, happens. And of course, I'm again back and forth with Mary and Tony, very calmly, very understanding, very supportive. They reassure us, no, it will be fine, it will be okay. And indeed, it has been fine. So for me, I think on a personal level, this has been
a learning moment in so many ways. We are in the sector, we work very high level. When you are a funder, you have a very skewed way of looking at things. And we have this conversation daily with my colleague Patrick. Like, we don't have the actual understanding of how things work. So listening to the various directors here, the arguments, the questions, and the thoughts and the ideas, my thinking is renewed. And going back to my colleagues, I'll tell them, colleagues, listen, this is not how we need to do this. We need to change our way of thinking. We need to be more aligned and, of course, be more responsive. And so on a personal level, this was very, very important, very useful. And I want to agree with the director, NATCOM, that I wish we could be doing this almost every quarter so that we gain that wisdom from you. There's a lot of wisdom in this room, and especially in the small groups. If you had a chance to listen to colleagues in the small groups, I wrote so much until I'm wondering how to synthesize this into something that is, publicly available, because there's a lot of wisdom in all of us. There's a way we think, there's a way we are very practical, and lots of ideas. So this has been very helpful for us, especially as IDRC, to understand not just how we can align our research, but how, in fact, evidence can be used at national level, because it's not as simple as we think, but it's also not as complicated as sometimes we imagine. So I just wrote a few things here, and I'll quickly run through. But I just wanted to mention, of course, to just highlight that we do appreciate the NATCOM so much for being swift, for being present, and for being supportive for this. Because without them, I have to say that we wouldn't be here. This would not have happened. So I wrote something here. So distinguished representatives from the Ministry of Education, UNESCO colleagues, GPE, KICS partners, UNICEF, development partners, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the close of this important policy dialogue, I would like to express sincere appreciation to all of you for the rich discussions, openness, and also commitment over the past days. There's a lot of wisdom here, as I've said, and hopefully that this wisdom will not remain in this group and that it will be carried forward so that it can support learning outcomes in our country. So on behalf of IDRC, thank you for your active participation and engagement. The workshop has reminded us that Kenya already has growing body of evidence, so we are not starting, from an empty slate. There's already a lot that we can build on. And of course, the challenge before us is not only generating more and more evidence, but ensuring that evidence is coordinated, first of all, that it's accessible. I think there has been lots of conversation around accessing, that it's interpreted in ways that it can be used, and that it's used to influence policy practice and also financing decisions. Another thing is we've heard clearly that evidence is needed to support critical areas. For me, one thing that stood out is foundational learning. I had a lot of foundational learning. And there's a speaker yesterday who said there's a lot of evidence around, but what we're lacking is foundational learning. And I was wondering, I said, okay, especially social-emotional learning. I had that today, I believe, because we've been wondering what are some of the areas that have been neglected. It seems like there's a lot, but actually we don't have as much evidence. So foundational learning for me. Formative assessments, I had that as well. Yesterday, someone mentioned formative assessments. And then, of course, teacher preparedness, professional development, learner and teacher well-being. There was a speaker yesterday who emphasized, we talk a lot about teachers. Teacher well-being, that's great. What about the learner well-being? And of course, inclusive approaches that ensure every learner participates in the classroom. The discussion also highlighted some gaps, so that while there is evidence in literacy, there's what, like I said, there's numeracy, there's less on numeracy, for instance. There's less on SEL. There's also some dimensions. Evidence maybe on well-being. While we are supporting, we need more evidence. How do we move away from these problems that were listed here the other day? There were so many problems, including our children engaging in some things that we wouldn't even want to hear about. So is there any research around this that will contribute to perhaps the ministry coming up with some practical ways to address some of these challenges? But also the discussions, of course, highlighted some very important messages on coordination, and I know this was mentioned earlier after the groups, fragmentation and duplication. That, of course, sometimes, of course, most of the time will weaken the impact of otherwise valuable initiatives that we are all generating. Our researchers are here, and there's a lot of evidence that is being generated. But if we don't ensure that this evidence is speaking to each other, there's coordination, then of course we are all just contributing to, there will be not much impact, even with all this evidence that we have. I just wanted to highlight something from the policy lab discussions as well that were really useful for me, and to quote Mr. Mujumba yesterday when he said, let's speak policy together. I think I'll be using that phrase everywhere I go. If we're talking about partnerships and collaborations, what exactly are we talking about? So let's pick certain things together in a way that, of course, would make sense. So some questions that we asked yesterday, what are the policy and legal frameworks that exist? I think we all have the responsibility of going back and looking at some of these existing legal frameworks and then trying to see how they speak or how our evidence is aligning to the existing frameworks. Lastly, of course, we were encouraged by some really good examples from our research, and of course, we are proud of all our research, but allow me to quote the NIA project. As a student who's very visual, watching that video yesterday, Zana Africa, from Zana Africa was really good. Just seeing the testimonials from the teachers and then from the students. In fact, yesterday in our table as we were watching, someone commented, that's a very confident student, when the student was talking about how the project has been useful to them. And so that, we would like to see that. So let's not just, as we deliberate here, let's make sure that our evidence is reaching the child and the teacher and the people who actually matter and who need to be recipients or users, not recipients, or beneficiaries. I don't know what word to use, but who need to benefit from the impact and whose lives need to change in a way that we can sustain this kind of change. So there are several messages, but I'll not go into that. I see the chair is standing here already. But then again, just to say thank you to the Ministry of Education, your willingness to be here, to participate in this fully. You're present, you're willing to share, to say, look, this is what we are going through, these are the challenges. That moment of vulnerability, we want to hear more and more of that, and then jointly we can see how to support. And then, of course, all the colleagues who are here, we really appreciate you, and hopefully that some of these actions today will translate into something meaningful going forward. So thank you so much, and I'll hand over now to the chair.
Thank you. Let's appreciate Joy. Thank you very much. May I now invite Karen, GP, kindly, and keep time also. Thanks.
Dear distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a privilege to join you over the past 3 days. I have followed the discussions very closely, and I have been particularly struck by a few key reflections. So for me, this dialogue has shown a clear direction from evidence creation to evidence use, from fragmented efforts to strong alignment and partnership, from discussions and analysis to implementation and scale. I have heard very clearly that while a wealth of evidence already exists, there is a need to better consolidate, centralize evidence accessible so that it can be more effectively inform policies and practices. The discussions reminded us that progress depends on strong systems, supported teachers, and consistent focus on learners. From a GPE perspective, this is a core of our mission. This is really at the core of our mission, to support countries in strengthening systems, aligning partners, and ensuring that evidence informs better policies and investments. The task ahead is clear: to align efforts, to act with purpose, and to deliver results. so that every learner in Kenya can learn, thrive, and succeed. So it has been a real honor for me and for my colleague Olga to be part of this important dialogue, and we at GPE look forward to our continued collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's appreciate Karen. May I now request both Karen and Joy, you can go back to your seat so that at least I can relieve you from this engaging environment. May I now request finally Dr. Ndegwa, the Director of Policy Partnership and East Africa Community Affairs, to do the closing ceremony and declare the 3-day engagement officially closed.
Thank you very much, Director Adwale. Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Culture and Higher Education, Somalia, Hassan Mohamed Ali. Representative Director, UNESCO, Dr. Victoria. Representative IDRC, Dr. Joy Nafungo. Coordinator AU, Education Specialist UNICEF, Polycarp. Directors and heads of directorates from Ministry of Education, CEOs of SAGAs, and director from TSC, Banadaburi, UN agencies representatives, representatives from research institutions, members of civil society, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. As we come to the close of this important 3-day engagement, I wish to sincerely thank all of you for your active contribution and unwavering commitment to strengthening education systems in Kenya and beyond. This meeting has provided a valuable platform for policy dialogue, peer learning, reflection, and knowledge sharing on some of the most pressing issues affecting education systems today. The discussions have been insightful, practical, and deeply grounded in evidence and lived experiences from the field. Over the past 3 days, we have collectively reflected on how evidence, innovation, and partnerships can be leveraged to improve learning outcomes, strengthen education governance, and enhance system resilience and equity. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the strongest messages emerging from this meeting is that data and evidence are only useful when they inform action. And I recall in the DG's opening remarks, he brought out the connection between evidence, policy, and practitioners. And you'll all agree this is where the gap is. The evidence is there, loads of evidence. Policy is there, making policy, but are they using that evidence? A big question mark there. Practitioners are there, implementers are there, teachers are there. Are they using these policies? Again, there's a big question mark. And I think we have discussed on this very well here, and we have come up with the way forward. We have acknowledged that while significant amounts of education data are generated, challenges remain around fragmentation, accessibility, and utilization for decision making. I remember Dr. Gashoka saying yesterday, talking about fragmentation, and he was saying when you ask for data, nobody wants to provide the data, but when you ask why, again, there is no reason why the data is not being provided. It is mine, so I keep it. But then is it really helping us to move forward in terms of utilization of that data for policy and for policy implementation? Participants emphasize the urgent need to strengthen integrated education management information systems, institutionalize data quality assurance mechanisms, create education evidence hubs, and promote a culture of evidence-based policy development, planning, and accountability across all levels of education sector. Happily now, we have been able to kickstart the education evidence hub after many failed attempts with IPA, and now working in very close collaboration with the Directorate of Chemistry, and Jemima was here yesterday in the panel discussion, and she articulated on that very well. Equally important were the discussions on foundational learning, which remains a critical national and global priority. The evidence shared on literacy and numeracy outcomes reminds us that many learners are still not attaining foundational competencies at the expected levels. Participants also underscored the need to sustain focus on socio-emotional learning and values development. These are key tenets of the competence-based education. This forum highlighted evidence-based practices that should be adopted to improve learning outcomes. Achieving this will require deliberate, coordinated action to strengthen evidence generation and use in teacher capacity development, assessment systems, middle-tier support structures, and community engagement. The policy lab findings pointed to the need for intentional budgeting for foundational learning, stronger coordination between national and county actors, and better support for the middle tier. I'm particularly encouraged by the emphasis placed on inclusive and equitable learning. In the group where I was the policy lab today, we also delved on the national reporting, especially on matters like gender parity, which is masking the reality when it comes to the region and the counties. And therefore talked of the need also to look at parity from the regional level with focus also on marginalized or vulnerable areas. The meeting highlighted the need to prioritize vulnerable and marginalized learners, ensure that no learner is left behind due to disability, poverty, conflict, climate-related shocks, or geographical location. Strengthening of targeted programs for specific disabilities and vulnerabilities will improve not only participation, but also learning outcomes. And this is why the ministry is now strengthening the education assessment resource centers, coming up with the EACs in every region, so that assessment can be done. Sometimes that is where the gap is. Learners are not aware that they have special needs. They have not gone to assessment. So they find themselves struggling through a system, yet the problem is actually they have special needs. And somebody goes up to grade 8 in the passes and they cannot write their name. And you're asking why. Those are some of the issues. Distinguished participants, another takeaway from this engagement is the importance of partnership and coordination. Transforming education cannot be achieved by government alone. Sustainable reform requires close collaboration among ministries, county governments, development partners, research institutions, civil societies, communities, and private sector. We are currently carrying out a mapping of development partners. And what is emerging is that their contribution to the funding of education is significant. We only sometimes look at the ministry budget. We only try to look at what each of the partners is bringing on board at the level of Education Development Partners Coordination Group. Even before we come to the other NGOs, it is quite a remarkable contribution. The openness and collaboration demonstrated during this meeting gives us confidence that together we can accelerate progress towards quality, equitable, and inclusive education. If I were to draw one common thread from all the sessions in this forum, it would be this: fragmentation is our common adversary, and coordination is our common remedy. We therefore need stronger intergovernmental coordination, better partner alignment, sustainable intentional financing, and a firm commitment to ensuring that evidence informs decision making. At the same time, our policy-making platforms must be responsive and open to emerging credible evidence. As we leave Naivasha today, I urge us all not to let these discussions and recommendations remain in conference reports and presentations. Let us act on the agreed action points and turn them into concrete measures, stronger priorities, better implementation, and measurable impacts in our schools and communities. The Ministry of Education remains committed to fostering evidence-informed policy processes, strengthening partnerships, and creating enabling environments for innovation and learning improvement. We highly value the continued support of GPE, KICS, IDRC, and all partners who have walked this journey with us. Allow me also to commend the organizing committee led by KICS Secretariat, partners, UNESCO, ICBA, AU, UNICEF, NATCOM, led by Dr. Jogu, Mary Kangede, and Tony and all. Definitely, I am witness to the work you have done, and even the fact that we are all seated here is because of the effort that you put. Things don't just happen, they are made to happen. Special thanks to the meeting facilitators, rapporteurs, and all participants for the successful organization and execution of this meeting. Your dedication and professionalism have greatly contributed to its success. Finally, I know the sugar levels are down. Now, finally, I wish our participants safe travels back to their respective destinations and look forward to continued collaboration as we work together to transform education for the benefit of every learner. And with those remarks, it is now my honor to officially declare the GPA KICS National Knowledge Sharing and Policy Learning Meeting officially closed. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause for Daktari. We have closed, so it's just a matter of a few announcements. Martha Odundo wanted to make some announcement. Director, please. And who else wanted to make announcements so that we can break for lunch?
Okay, let me make announcements on behalf of the planning team. One, we are going to all adopt